Hello and welcome back to the Local Government People's Program. My name, Adam Spagnolo, and it's my pleasure to welcome you back in the studio. At the moment I have Jack Garber. Welcome back, Jack.
Thank you, Adam. Thank you. Pleasure
Jack is a candidate, of course, in the Hammersley ward of the City of Stirling. The City of Stirling elections, as we all know, are here, Jack. After all this time, gosh, it seemed to be a long way away when I first started this 5 months ago. But now, look, it's almost upon us. Any day now, people are going to be receiving their postal voting packages. And of course, voting will start. And the interesting thing about that is that I found out that statistically, in the first week, 50% of returns actually go back to the Electoral Commission. That's an amazing statistic. Jack, last time that we spoke, you were good enough to report to us here some of the happenings and some of the findings at the question time session over at the City of Stirling. And one of the things that came up at the last actual council meeting was the issue of the Mayor's vehicle being involved in some sort of incident, accident or altercation, call it whatever you will. The interesting thing about that is that the question was asked on the basis was it involved in some sort of incident? And the direct answer, quite categoric I understand, that came back was the fact that no, the Mayor's vehicle was not involved in an accident. Now, like if that was me or you or anybody else, we would have been on the front page of the West Australian or probably the community newspaper. But no more's been said.
Well, Adam, obviously you're a witness to the fact, and this was a clear whitewash of the exact circumstances.
Yeah.
Directly attributed back to the CEO for the city.
Yeah. Look, it's not about the incident. It's about the honesty. Yes. And, people have a right to know that there was some form of incident, and people have a right to know whether the gentleman that was struck is okay. And I'm pleased to report that he is getting better because I've actually checked on him. He is getting a lot better. He's still limping around a little bit. And he's still quite shocked about what happened at that incident.
Sure, yeah. I'm sure he is.
Now, Jack, you attended the meeting last night. Actually, it must have been a very short meeting. Obviously, everybody's in election mode. Ordinarily, the meetings last an hour and a half, two hours. But last night, half an hour and it was over. What's going on?
Well, clearly it was a very short agenda. And a couple of items on the agenda were inappropriate to be on the agenda, and during questioning time, I did raise the issue along with another ratepayer, Mr. Arnold Davies, who's a regular in attendance. One of the matters pertained to the overcross over Reed Highway, the pedestrian overcross at Reed Highway, and whether or not in the evenings that overpass should be locked. It was a political contribution to one of the members of council who is currently being who's candidates presently.
So, yep, got that.
So that was a motion by David Boothman. Mm-hmm. When asked whether or not this was proper during the caretaker period, the response from the governance officer was that was a proper question.
I think the question is the appropriateness of whether or not it should have been done at this time.
That's correct.
Like you say, because it is in the course of the caretaker period.
Yeah.
And given that that's the case, the timing could certainly be questioned. Yeah. I agree with you there, Jack.
Same with the second question by notice, and that was by Samantha Jenkinson, who is retiring from council.
And hopefully you will replace.
I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Her motion was to replace the current opening prayer with an affirmation. Again, not an appropriate thing during the caretaker period. The governance officer again ruled that it was.
Yes.
However, when these two matters did come up for vote at the council, they were adjourned to a later time. Council recognized that information provided by the governance officer was incorrect.
Yeah. I think politics and religion are always an issue, and certainly they are an issue during the caretaker period as well, Jack. But the Lord's Prayer, which I understand is what they recite prior to a council meeting, is what they do in Parliament, is what they do in the British Parliament, what they do in the West Australian Parliament, what they do in the Federal Parliament. So it's not unusual to have the Lord's Prayer in that particular forum before the meeting starts. I think to change it to the affirmation, I think it does require some discussion. Obviously, there are people's beliefs, because I think you'll find that with the Lord's Prayer, it tends to be, as I understand it, pretty uniform across all of Christianity. Is that correct? That's your understanding?
Well, it's pretty. Yeah. It's generally uniform.
I think when you start with affirmations and things that could possibly steer away from what the intent of reciting the Lord's Prayer prior to a particular meeting is all about. Yeah.
Well, it's going to be something that I guess you and I will be addressing in the future as a result of that.
Yes.
And possibly something like the national anthem could be played in place of that.
Yeah, just got to learn the words. I know the words to the first verse, but and a bit of the second verse. And I was actually looking at this television, or watching this television program the other day, and it was Andrei Ryov, the maestro. The master.
Yes.
There. He was amazing. He was actually getting his orchestra to play the national anthem, and everybody was singing along. It was actually in Melbourne, Australia, where this concert was held. And he played the first verse. Everybody sang it very well. Played the second verse. Everybody sang it, reasonably well. When it came to the third verse, there was only about 2 or 3 people singing it.
That's right.
Look,
I'm
guilty of that too, I've got to say.
Yeah, I've seen that clip as well.
Jack, what else is happening at the council meeting? Any other questions that came up that are of interest?
Yeah, very interesting question session by Mr. Paolino.
He's the mayor's boy, isn't he?
Oh, he's the mayor's boy, is right.
That's right.
And this was a mayor's question. That was a setup, clearly a setup question. Both you and I have recognized that the financial position for the city of Stirling provides that, from the report, that there is a $2.8 billion net equity.
Let's round it off, Jack. $3 billion.
$3 billion in net equity within the financial position of the city of Stirling. That is the accumulated surplus plus the reserves, which include investments and cash, and reserves for assets. And you and I have both stated that is the
financial position.
We're
talking about surplus and reserve funds equating to around $3 billion.
That's correct.
Okay, it's in your financial statements, City of Stirling. Have a good look at them and you'll know what we're talking about. If you don't know them, perhaps you could get someone to interpret them, because that's our understanding. If that's not correct, well, then you need to tell the people.
And your accountants who certified this.
Yeah.
Financial position.
And make out that it's not, when we know that it is, based on the information that you're giving the public.
Well, Paolino asked about the cash reserves. And the mayor deferred to the acting financial officer, and she reported that the cash reserves presently were about $72 million. And frankly, I kind of question whether or not it's that high at this particular time, but nevertheless, that was the report by the financial officer currently.
Yes.
Then it was followed by Paolino making turning the council chambers into a political statement, really against you and I, who've made these statements about the $3 billion net equity, which is surplus and cash reserve, and asked the mayor whether or not he was aware that there are certain candidates who have been representing that there's a $3 billion reserve within the Stirling community.
Well, Jack, if I can just stop you there for a moment, I don't think that anybody's researched this as much as you and I have. So we're very confident with the figures that we've put forward. As far as I'm concerned, that's the position that I interpret from the financial statements that the City of Stirling has made available to the general public. So on that basis, I have no qualm at all with the $3 billion that we're talking about. And what's the result of the question?
Well, then the follow-up question to that by Paolino was to the mayor, what are you going to do about the candidates who are making these representations about the $3 billion? The mayor deferred to the CEO.
Oh, yeah. Interesting.
Stuart Jardine. And Stuart Jardine reported that the matter has been turned over to the WA Election Commission.
Okay.
Now, this entire segment of the meeting last night was wholly inappropriate.
And political.
Paolino transformed the council chambers into a political arena for himself. He set himself up on the stage.
I wonder why the mayor didn't shut him down. He shuts you down every second. He shuts everybody else down from time to time.
Absolutely was out of order.
The mayor's boy doesn't get shut down.
No.
Gee, that's very good, Mr. Mayor.
Yeah.
You're very consistent. We can see that.
Yes.
All right, look, we've got a lot more to talk about, A, about the elections, and B, about the City of Stirling. So stay tuned. We'll be back very shortly in the Local Government People's Program.